Jameis Winston had a workout today, and I'll be interested to hear what Jason had to say. I don't know if he was there or if he watched it on TV, did you watch it at all?
92 of 102. That's 90.2% of the passes were complete. There were 6 drops, so he actually completed 98 of 102 that were not dropped.
Yeah,
now,
but you know what?
The question would be, who was he playing against?
Well,
nobody.
I mean, yeah, there was no pass rush and there was nobody covering the receivers. Woody, I was not impressed. I mean, I have my own issues, as do many other people, with Jameis Winston because of all the off-the-field stuff at Florida State. I'm very sketchy on whether or not I would take him with the number 1 pick overall if I'm the Tampa Bay Bucks. But what I saw today, not impressed a lick. In fact, I was surprised at how bad I felt the workout was. First of all, they showed shots of him being weighed in, shirt off, flabby. I mean, flabby. This is a guy who has a lot at stake here. Number 2, even at the beginning of the workout, he was sweating heavily. He looked like he was tired. He was worn down. His passes were terribly inaccurate, short and long. If I'm Tampa, I'm saying to myself, I don't know now. I might be thinking Leonard Williams instead, going for the defensive lineman who looks like a sure thing. Jameis Winston, you're going to be paying him a huge signing bonus. You're going to be paying him for the next 4 years in salary. He's going to be the face of your franchise because he's the quarterback. And I have huge questions about this kid on and off the field now.
Wow. Tell us what you really think.
No, seriously. I didn't like him before.
Well, there were very mixed reactions. There were some people who said he did great. There were other people who said he was very indifferent, that he was flabby. That was used. Other people talked about how well he threw in the red zone. I would guess this. If you're going to make a decision based on pro day, you're not a very good scouting department.
No, I agree. It's just one more thing you input into the
Teddy Bridgewater
data.
impressed last year in his pro day, and that's why he moved up in the draft. But you hadn't watched him for 3-4 years? I mean, you haven't watched Winston for the last 3 years? I mean, have you not made a decision? So you're making the decision on what happened this morning.
Well, I'm making a decision based on a lot of things, and I just said it's just one more piece of data you input into your database to come out with a conclusion.
Don't you think whatever might have happened? Let me just address some of the issues.
Okay.
He's probably a little bit flabby because spring break has happened, and he probably went off with his friends and went somewhere. Number 2, he's got an issue in his life with his grandmother. That's why he's not going to the NFL draft. His grandmother can't travel. He wants her to be there, and she has type 2 diabetes as I do, and he wants to be with her during the draft day. So he's gotten a lot of, and she's got some serious health problems and can't travel. Some of the stuff should bounce off him. Some of it should not be applied to him like glue. I think in regard to flabby, he's not a flabby guy. Maybe there was something going on that, as I said, he just came back from spring break.
He didn't look like he was in any kind of shape.
He's probably not in great shape right now. When are the OTs starting?
Well, isn't that a red flag? But isn't that a red flag?
I'm just saying.
You got your pro day coming up, and you're not in good shape.
Bay, you're not going to draft him. You want to
draft?
No,
I'm not.
You want to draft a defensive
end,
then?
And they're desperate for a quarterback.
Why wouldn't they have looked closely at both those quarterbacks? Why then would you go for Mariota? Who is Tampa Bay's
I might
quarterback?
take Mariota ahead of Jameis Winston.
Well, their owner is
because of his athletic ability and his smarts, and I believe that somebody can turn Mariota into a pretty good pocket passer. I think he's capable. Look, there are so many red flags with Winston for me. I don't think I'm touching the kid. I think he's a better player than Manziel, but I have the same number of red flags as I did for Johnny Manziel, and I never in a million years would have taken Johnny Manziel, no matter how desperate I am at quarterback.
Well, you can't compare Johnny Manziel and Winston.
Well, off the field issues.
But you can't compare them overall as players, and that's what we're talking about.
Wait. They both won a Heisman. They both had stellar, sparkling one-loss records in college.
Won a national championship. The other one didn't.
No, but the other one was pretty damn good.
One didn't have the size didn't have the passing
Winston looks
arm.
like a better prospect, absolutely.
Oh, you can't.
But
That's
there
why
are some things you can.
You know, if you want to
him to.
compare Johnny Manziel and Tim Tebow, that's one thing. But for you to sit there and say Manziel and Winston's resume.
I'm talking about the red
I'm talking about
flags.
football. I'm talking about football. You're talking about red flags. Well, that's the question. Everybody's got to face the question of whether those red flags, which and I brought up to you before, the accuser in the Winston assault case lives in the Tampa Bay area. If I were Tampa Bay, I don't know that I'd want, if I were the Buccaneers in St. Pete in Tampa, Florida, I don't think I'd want that hanging
circus.
over my head. He went to school at Florida State not Gainesville, state capital, Tallahassee, not far away. I mean, it's 3-4 hour drive. But you went right to school there. The accusers there, all of the garbage that happened to him in his college career is all still, it's like a running sore. It hasn't gone away. It won't go away. I don't think I'd want any part of him. For a different reason, those are red flags.
Oh, so you agree with me?
But not based on today.
No.
You have to look at the
Again,
body of work.
You're
looking at his body today.
No.
I'm looking at the body of work.
Well, you know what? I look at that and I wonder about his character. Knowing his pro days coming up, knowing what's at stake, knowing that these teams are going to go over every aspect of his physical stature and his personality with a fine-tooth comb, and he comes in flabby. That tells me something.
Would you, if you were Tampa Bay,
I don't want those excuses about spring break and all that other stuff.
Would you consider the other alternative? Trade him? Trade the draft pick?
Yes, I absolutely would trade the draft pick because there are so many teams that are desperate for quarterbacks and so many near the top of the draft. Somebody's going to offer you a pot full of gold for him.
Really? You think so? Okay. You think anybody's going to do the RG3 deal?
Maybe not to that extent, but you can get a couple of number one draft picks out of somebody. I believe that.
Who would you think?
Well, we named some of the teams earlier. The New York Jets aren't in love with Geno Smith. The Tennessee Titans aren't in love with Mettenberg. Who else? I mean, let's name all the bad teams in the league. They all have bad quarterbacks. Houston, desperate for a quarterback. Kansas City is said to be looking at a quarterback. Alex Smith's going into his 12th year.
I don't believe that for a second. Well, yeah, they're looking at a quarterback. They're looking at Grayson probably. They're not going to draft somebody in the first round with a pick at 18 or 19. What are you going to get?
Mel Kiper, your colleague at ESPN, says Kansas City has its eyes on Mariota and is willing to trade up possibly to get Mariota.
Well, Jesse, your compatriot here at the sports show.
Our intern you're talking about?
Yeah, he was telling me earlier today that Les doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well,
so am I supposed to believe
no.
you are
This is
Mel
why you
Kiper
believe Mel
or
Kiper
Jesse
instead
or
of
me?
Jesse. Mel Kiper has better hair than Jesse, okay? And that's why he's more
Jesse,
credible.
The body. And Kiper doesn't have a good body.
You know what happens when it comes to quarterbacks? Teams get nuts. All right, they overreach. They take guys earlier than they should be taken, and there are a lot of teams that are desperate for a quarterback right now. Buffalo's desperate for a quarterback. I mean, there are 5 or 6 teams that will sell their soul to the devil for a good starting quarterback right now.